Hello, Mr. Beard here, with your class recap for Monday, May 7th. We started today with SSR as we get closer and closer to our final. We're really going to be working a lot on reading comprehension skills, as our final will be skills-based, and it's going to rely heavily on reading comprehension. So we're going to get a lot of practice of that in the next week or so. After we finished SSR, we read a very short story by Ernest Hemingway. You can find this story on our class website here under the assignments link, along with discussion questions. The story is attached below, and here are the discussion questions. It is, as the title suggests, a relatively short and easy read, and it's written in a very plain spoken style, which was a characteristic of all of Hemingway's writing. That makes it very easy to read, and so if you were absent, take a second, read this, it won't take you long, and then go ahead and answer these discussion questions. The tone is up to you. In class, we used highlighters to highlight keywords that we believe set that tone. What happens to the relationship between a protagonist and Luz, again, is up to you, but you must back it up with a quote from the story and cite it parenthetically, which means you put it in parentheses, and it would look something like this, where you have your quote, and then the author's last name, in parentheses, and close all that off with the period after the parentheses. This is a skill we need to review. We hit it heavily in our research writing assignment part of the unit, but we will have some questions about that on the final, so you're going to want to review how to do that correctly. For number 3, we've covered. So number 4, name 5 things you know for sure about the protagonist. That means you can back it up 100% from the story. That's a little bit harder because Hemingway uses the iceberg effect, where we only see, certain details with many more of them being suggested about the character. For example, we're pretty sure he's American, but nowhere does it say so. It says back home, but it doesn't say, that he's a Native American resident. So things like that are harder to find where it's 100% verified in the story. Some things that were verified: he is certainly had an operation. It says that clearly. He certainly takes a job in Chicago. He does contract a sexually transmitted disease in Chicago, and he definitely does not respond to Luz's last letter. So those are some verifiable items. Now, for number 5, name 3 things that are suggested. That's the bottom of the iceberg here, and that's quite a bit. It's suggested that he's an American. It's suggested that he's a soldier. It's suggested that this is all happening during World War I. Suggested that he's injured in battle. It's suggested that he and Luz are very, very much in love. And it's suggested that he's had his heart broken by Luz not agreeing to marry him and instead marrying the Italian major. So a lot of suggestions, not as much concrete evidence. And then number 6, why does Hemingway choose to name Luz but not the protagonist? Some of the things we talked about in the class is that, the little we've talked about Hemingway, we know he was in World War I. He was overseas. We know he's lived in Chicago, and that was home to him at one point. We know he's had drinking issues. All of these things he shares in common with this protagonist, and it may be a way of distancing himself from a very, very personal autobiographical piece. That is one possibility. Another possibility is that he's just keeping it, very informal, very out of reach. But that's really up for you. One of the beautiful things about this story is that there's so much left unsaid that you can kind of fill in your own details and make your own assumptions. But we always want to use textual evidence when we do that. It's very important to remain within the text and not just go making wild claims that cannot be supported. That covers what we did today in class. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.